I know that you love me, and I have to love myself. And it's very hard for a person to love someone that doesn't love themselves.
Have you ever wondered what happened to the members of DeBarge? They were so famous in the 80s, but now many people don't hear about them anymore. Why did they disappear from the spotlight? What happened to the group's music? Did they face any struggles? Let's take a look at their story and find out what they've been doing since their rise to fame. The DeBarge family was full of music. Their mother, Ederline, said music was in their blood. Her father was a choir director and a talented musician. Ederline grew up in a big family with 11 siblings. She later had 10 children, and many of them became famous musicians in the 1980s. While they got their talent from their grandfather, their father, Robert DeBarge Sr., had a big effect on their lives. Ederline met Robert after her father died. She was only 17 and had little experience with relationships. Robert was 4 years older and in the Army. He was also white, which was not accepted by society at that time.
I was a very young woman. I was only 17 when I got married, and I started having children when I was 21. And it took me like 3 years before I started my family, but once I got started, it was like the never-ending story.
At first, their love seemed strong, but Robert was extremely jealous. He did not let Ederline wear jewelry or makeup because he was afraid other men would notice her. They married quickly, but their relationship soon turned bad. Ederline said Robert hurt her both physically and emotionally. He also made sure she was always pregnant, which made her life very hard. Ederline's children had horrific memories of their father. My father sexually molested a lot of my brothers and sisters, Chico DeBarge told Vibe. Bobby allegedly took the bulk of the abuse, but all the children suffered. Bunny would blame the siblings' professional woes and personal struggles on the ugliness they endured as children. Robert Sr. denied ever abusing his family, but something certainly scarred them. The DeBarge family and the Jackson family have a lot in common. Both families had many members who became famous in the music world. The Jacksons had 9 siblings with solo music careers, and 8 of the 10 DeBarge siblings also had music careers. Both groups were successful under Motown Records, and both had a member named Randy. In the DeBarge family, El DeBarge was like Michael Jackson. He had a high-pitched voice that even sounded a little like Michael's, but with a slight cold. Because of his talent, Motown's Berry Gordy treated him as a special artist. Gordy wanted El to become a solo star, but this caused problems in the family. Their mother said the other siblings felt hurt when El was treated differently. However, El had a different story. In 1986, he told the LA Times that he wanted to go solo so his siblings could have more creative freedom.
I had a brother that died. My oldest brother died.
Bobby?
Yeah. And yeah,
of addiction?
I'm scared of dying. I'm scared of losing my brother. We need no more deaths in our family.
Behind the fame, they faced many struggles. Bobby DeBarge, the lead singer of the group Switch, was the first in his family to fall into drug addiction. Legendary Motown founder Berry Gordy reportedly called Bobby DeBarge the most talented artist I have signed. Keep in mind that Motown had signed megastars like Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, the Jackson 5, and Marvin Gaye, to name a few, so that's saying something. Music producer Bernd Lichter said he'd never heard anyone sound quite like Bobby, and with so much ease. Musically, Bobby could do it all: sing, write, produce. He also dated LaToya Jackson for a spell. Unfortunately, the one thing he couldn't seem to do was heal. Described by Vibe as a tortured soul with an attractive exterior, Bobby sunk into heroin addiction and never resurfaced. Perhaps his problems resulted from alleged molestation by his father, as Bobby's sibling claimed, or maybe fame simply provided too many temptations and imposed too few restrictions. Regardless of why it began, the ending was drawn out and agonizing. In 1985, the family's group, DeBarge, had a big hit with Rhythm of the Night.
Oh, to the beat of the rhythm of the night, listen to the morning
They were on the path to great success. But in 1988, Bobby and his brother, Chico, were arrested for drug trafficking in Michigan. They were caught trying to smuggle cocaine from Los Angeles. Bobby was sentenced to prison, and this marked the downfall of the DeBarge family's music career. While in prison, Bobby received devastating news. He had contracted HIV. His health started to decline quickly. Gregory Williams, who attended school with Bobby and performed alongside him in the group Switch, recalled that the singer's last years were hell. Bobby grew paranoid and distant from his family as his health declined. He was separated from his wife and children. The disease progressed, and at that time there was no effective treatment available to save him. Even while sick, Bobby tried to keep making music. He finished an album called It's Not Over.
I got to find my way, gotta know what to say.
Sadly, he knew his time was running out. His family placed him in hospice care as his condition worsened. On August 16, 1995, Bobby DeBarge passed away due to AIDS-related complications. He was only 39 years old. His final album had been released just 2 weeks before his death. Bobby was laid to rest in Garfield Park Cemetery in Grand Rapids, Michigan. His obituary stated that his death was connected to his long history of drug use. His family continued to struggle with drug addiction even after his death. Their mother, Ederline DeBarge, once said that drugs had taken over their lives. She believed that the music industry had also played a role in their suffering. She claimed that Motown took control of El DeBarge's music rights, making them depressed.
You believe that there's a child.
I think we all believe that James and Janet had a child.
Sometimes in life, we have to choose between following our dreams and keeping our happiness. This is exactly what happened with Janet Jackson. In 1984, Janet secretly married James DeBarge, but her manager didn't want her to be seen as a married woman. They wanted the world to see nasty Janet, not a wife. Janet's family also didn't support her decision. They were shocked by the marriage. Although it surprised her family, Janet and James had known each other for a while. Janet's brother, Jermaine Jackson, had even helped James' family get into the music business. Janet and James had been together for 2 years before they got married. It seemed like everything was going well, but things were not perfect. Reports said that their marriage was full of fights and James was struggling with depression and drugs. Janet's manager kept pressuring her to end the marriage, and it worked. In 1985, Janet and James' marriage was canceled. James was heartbroken, saying that Janet was more than just his wife. She was everything to him, his sister, his mother, and more. In the end, Janet's decision to put her career first hurt James deeply, but she felt like she had to choose her path. There was also a big rumor in the 80s and 90s about James DeBarge and Janet Jackson. For years, people believed that James and Janet secretly had a child together. Some said the baby was raised by Janet's sister or put into foster care. Both Janet and James denied the rumors, saying they never had a child together. But in 2016, James shocked everyone when he said on a TV show that he and Janet did indeed have a child. He explained that he had kept it a secret for years but was finally tired of hiding the truth. Why did James wait so long to tell everyone? Some people believed he wanted attention, especially because Janet was about to have her first real baby. James' mother and a woman named Tiffany, who claimed to be the child James was talking about, even took a DNA test. In 2017, it was reported that the DNA test results were shared on TV, making the mystery even more confusing.
DNA test.
I told her, I said, the proof is in the pudding, let's go get the DNA.
So this is the DNA test, and it says the probability of relatedness is 96.7%.
That's my granddaughter. If she's nothing else, she's my granddaughter.
A test was done to see if they were related, but it was never fully confirmed. Later, DNA tests showed that they were not father and daughter, but even if they had been, it wouldn't have proven much about Tiffany's real mother. Bunny DeBarge started using drugs because of peer pressure. She first tried cocaine and later started using pills. She said in 2007 that if you didn't use drugs, you didn't fit in.
My mom was upset with me one day. She wanted me to take her to get drugs. And she was very upset that I wouldn't take her.
They also had to deal with the harshness of the music business. According to their mother, Motown didn't care about their well-being. Instead, the company caused fights between the siblings. She also said that DeBarge turned to drugs because the pressure from the music industry was too much for him. After the group DeBarge released Rhythm of the Night, started his solo career, but it did not go well at first. Even though he was known as the creative force in DeBarge, he did not write or produce anything for his first solo album, DeBarge. He later blamed this on a failed romance. He also felt lonely without his siblings.
You knew you had me.
DeBarge gave a strange interview in 1985. He told the LA Times, "There are these personalities in me, so many of them." He said he even fought with some of these personalities. He added, "I don't enjoy some of them, and I know other people don't enjoy them either." L's troubles didn't stop there. In 1986, a woman in Michigan accused him of attacking her in a hotel. She said he pulled her hair, dragged her to the floor, and hit her when she rejected his advances. L did not fight the case in court and was fined $200. He also had to do 200 hours of community service. For a rich musician, this was not a big punishment. Years later, in 2007, L was arrested again, this time for possible domestic violence. In 2018, he made headlines again when he got into an argument with a man. Instead of talking it out, L grabbed a wrench and chased the man. The man ran to an RV to escape, but L smashed the windshield with the wrench. He was later charged with felony vandalism. When they weren't using drugs, the DeBarges were in trouble with the law. Tommy, a member of Switch, got in trouble for selling fake cocaine to a police officer. In 2012, 3 other brothers, Mark, James, and L, were arrested for drug possession. Moving on to Jonathan Chico DeBarge, part of the DeBarge family. For Jonathan, he didn't want to just live in the shadow of his famous siblings. When Chico released his first album in 1986, his brothers and sisters were already well-known stars. People often confused him for being part of the DeBarge singing group. Chico himself admitted that he didn't have the best singing voice, but he still tried to make his own way in the music world. Growing up, Chico had a tough time. His classmates knew his family didn't have much money. When his siblings started making a lot of money, some kids couldn't handle it and made fun of him. On top of that, Chico's race added to the problems. His father was white and his mother was black and Native American. This made him stand out, and unfortunately, he faced a lot of teasing. Chico said that no matter if he was rich or poor, people always made fun of him, and he got into a lot of fights. As Chico became an adult, he faced even bigger challenges. In the late 1980s, after his second album was released, Chico got into serious trouble with the law. He was caught trying to sell drugs with his brother, Bobby. This led to his arrest and a difficult time in his life. But Chico didn't give up. In the late 90s, he tried to make a comeback and had some success. Unfortunately, things went wrong again in 2003 when he was stabbed outside a nightclub. While he was recovering, Chico started using painkillers and later turned to heroin. His addiction led to another arrest in 2007. Chico DeBarge's life was filled with ups and downs, but he kept pushing forward despite all the obstacles he faced.
I believe that it can.
You think
I
it's
believe
going
that
to?
it can. No, because I believe in a higher power that.
L's family has also faced many problems, some caused by their fast lifestyle, and this caused them health problems. For example, her son Tommy, who was in the funk group Switch, ended up needing kidney dialysis. Mark, a member of the DeBarge group, had trouble walking because of health issues. Randy, another brother, had an illness that could not be cured. Sadly, Bobby, another son, died from AIDS. Bunny, L's sister, struggled with drugs and breast cancer. She fought hard and beat cancer, but her battle with drugs continued.
I know that you love me, and I have to love myself. And it's very hard for a person to love someone that doesn't love themselves.
L himself had a lot of children, 12 to be exact. He said that his kids helped him through difficult times, but he hasn't always been there for them when they needed him. His personal life has been full of mistakes and missed chances, but he still keeps going. In 2010, L met with his daughter Kendall for the first time in 15 years. When my daughter was born, I held her in my arms. I haven't seen her since, he told the Houston Chronicle. Their reunion went well, but L struggled to connect with some of his children. Speaking with Jet, he revealed that at least 2 of his kids got used to him not being around. Part of the reason L wasn't around his kids was his crippling drug addiction, as earlier mentioned, which led to bouts of homelessness and a 13-month prison stint. In fact, in 2010, he couldn't even locate his 3-year-old daughter because he lost her to the system while hooked on drugs. However, that year, he was also a Grammy-nominated artist who said he'd seen the light. I'm not even thinking about any drugs. The devil had his chance to destroy me. He can't do it now. The following year, he entered rehab, and in 2012, he was busted for allegedly trying to sell drugs. Hopefully, in the long run, L will follow the advice he offered fans. Just learn from my mistakes. Now let's move on to their musical career. The group started in the 1970s when the siblings from the DeBarge family began performing together in Detroit, Michigan. In 1979, 3 of the brothers, Randy, Mark, and L, were part of a band called SMASH. They released music in the USA and Canada, and later in Germany. They were helped by Bernd Lichters, a man who lived in California and bought them instruments. The siblings were also mentored by a Motown band called Switch, which included their older brothers Tommy and Bobby, and their family friend Gregory Williams. By 1980, the group was officially formed as the DeBarges when their sister Bunny joined them. They were ready to make a big name for themselves. That same year, L had the chance to perform live for Berry Gordy, the CEO of Motown. He was very impressed and signed them to the label. They spent the next year working with Switch, helping with background vocals, instruments, and writing songs for Switch's albums. In 1981, Bobby and Tommy left Switch to join DeBarge, and they helped their siblings produce their first album. But the first album didn't do very well, and their single What's Your Name didn't make it on the charts. Things changed in 1982. The DeBarge siblings added their brother James to the group and worked on their second album, All This Love. This album became a huge success. 2 songs, I Like It and All This Love, became big hits. All This Love even went to #1 on the adult contemporary chart. In 1983, DeBarge made a big impact when they performed on Motown 25, a special TV show that celebrated Motown music. Later that year, DeBarge released their 3rd album, In a Special Way. It also became successful with hits like Time Will Reveal and Love Me in a Special Way. The album went gold in the United States, meaning it sold a lot of copies. Because of their success, DeBarge was invited to open for Luther Vandross on his tour in 1984. In 1984, James DeBarge made headlines when he secretly married Janet Jackson, a member of the famous Jackson family. However, their marriage didn't last long, and they got it annulled the next year. Janet later talked about how James's drug use caused problems in their short marriage. In 1985, DeBarge released a song called Rhythm of the Night for the movie The Last Dragon. The song became their biggest hit, reaching the top 5 in the US and UK, and it is still remembered as their most famous song. Motown, their record label, saw L's potential and decided to focus on him when it came to their next album, Rhythm of the Night. They believed L was the most reliable because some of the other siblings were struggling with drug problems. As a result, the label did not ask for much help from the other members. The Rhythm of the Night album turned out to be a huge success. It went platinum and had several hit songs like Who's Holding Donna Now and You Wear It Well. This was the peak of DeBarge's career, but after the album was done, things started to change. L and Bunny, another member of the group, left to pursue solo careers after Motown offered them big deals. Without them, the group wasn't as strong, and Motown dropped DeBarge from their label in 1986. In 1987, Bobby DeBarge rejoined the group, and they signed with a smaller record label, Striped Horse Records. They released an album called Bad Boys, but it didn't do well. The label had financial problems and couldn't promote the album properly. Even though they released 2 singles, Dance All Night and I Got You Babe, the album didn't chart well and the group struggled to stay relevant in the music industry. DeBarge kept going for a while, even bringing in their younger brother Chico to perform with them. Chico had a hit song called Talk to Me, and he joined the group as their opening act. The brothers even made a guest appearance on the TV show Punky Brewster in 1988. But things took a turn for the worse when Bobby and Chico were arrested for drug trafficking in 1988. Both were convicted and sent to different prisons. After this, the group was no longer able to keep going, and they broke up in 1989. By the time the group disbanded, DeBarge had achieved many successes. They had 9 top 40 R&B singles, 5 top 40 pop singles, and even 2 #1 R&B hits. They also had hits on the adult contemporary and dance charts. However, their personal struggles and the family's issues led to the end of their music career. Years later, Bunny DeBarge wrote a book called The Kept Ones, where she told the story of her family's rise to fame. The book shared the struggles and successes they faced as they grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Bunny published a second version of the book in 2020, but this caused tension in the family. El DeBarge didn't agree with the book's story and called it full of lies on social media. Despite their disagreements, the DeBarge family will always be remembered for their music and the impact they made on the music industry. The group has made a big impact on music. Many artists have used or copied their songs in their own music. One of their most famous songs, Stay With Me, has been sampled by many artists. The notorious B.I.G. used it in his hit remix of One More Chance. Mary J. Blige also sampled DeBarge's music in her songs Share My World, A Dream, and Don't Go. Tupac Shakur used the melody of A Dream in his song I Ain't Mad at Cha. The R&B group Blackstreet also sampled A Dream in their hit song Don't Leave Me. They were big fans of DeBarge and even made a gospel version of Time Will Reveal. In 2005, singer Raheem DeVaughn used parts of the song My Friend in the Sky in his album. The song Stay With Me was also used by Ashanti in her hit song Foolish and by Mariah Carey in I'll Be Lovin' You Long Time. DeBarge's song I Like It is one of their most sampled tracks. Many artists have taken inspiration from its music and lyrics. Another song, All This Love, has also been covered by several singers. The group's talent was recognized in 1984 when their album In a Special Way was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best R&B Performance. DeBarge's music continues to inspire new artists, proving that their legacy lives on.